Big changes have been made to my latest FPL draft, but my bench boost still remains active. And in today's video, I'm going to discuss what changes I have made, why my bench boost is active, and of course, what you have missed during pre-season, as this has changed a lot of outlooks on certain players. So as always, if you're looking forward to today's video, make sure you do drop a like, aim for 200 on this video. And of course, if you haven't already, make sure you do smash the subscribe button. Enough waffling, let's get into today's video. So the bench boost game week 1 strategy is definitely picking up a lot of momentum in the FPL community. So in this section, I just wanted to cover off why I personally am looking to bench boost in that opening game week. Again, we don't really see this often. A few managers have tried it over previous seasons. And the reason why, first and foremost, it is becoming a bit of a popular strategy is because, of course, we have double the amount of chips this year. Between game weeks 1 and 19, we have to use the first set of chips, which, of course, is the usual 4, no assistant manager this year. And then between game weeks 20 and 38, we then have to use the second set of chips. So we got to use the bench boost at some point between now and game week 19. And I do think game week 1 lines up pretty well for this season. And let's talk about the pros and cons firstly, because it isn't just always great things about it. So first up, we get unlimited transfers, of course, during this preseason to build a bench boost team. And that is really important. We have all of these free transfers to build 15 players that we think are going to play the maximum amount of minutes. Whereas historically, we've had to spend 3, 4, 5 different transfers over many game weeks to kind of build a team that effectively we can bench boost. And the problem with that strategy over the years is sometimes we ignore players because they don't benefit us for that one particular bench boost week where anything could happen and a player could get injured while you're trying to transfer them in. What I love about this for game week 1, and it covers off the second section, is that it's a bit easier to predict these starting lineups. The teams are going to ideally put out their best teams. We're not going to have any injuries, and we'll probably get told them before the game week 1 deadline. So effectively, we're going to have lots of information. We're going to know what teams are going to look like for this game week 1 fixture, and we can build towards it with unlimited transfers. And as I mentioned here, it removes the future headache for creating this 15-man squad later down the line. If you allocate your bench boost, let's say in game week 10, for example, from game week 6 onwards, you're going to have to start thinking in the back of your mind, unless I'm wildcarding a bench boost team, I've got to start allocating my transfers to ensure that in game week 10, my bench boost team is ready to deploy. And even though the bench boost is a great chip, I do think it is slightly overrated. You can only have a bench boost team as good as your budget is available to you. So once you do take money out of that starting 11 and invest it in your bench, it's not like you can have a bench full of 8 million, 9 million players. They're always going to be players from most likely lowly teams that are hopefully scraping up points in the week that you do pick them. So I think the bench boost can be slightly overhyped. And finally, from a psychological perspective, if you do well on this bench boost in game week 1, who doesn't want the opportunity of being number 1 in the world? If all the stars align and you get the right team with the right bench boost, who knows? You could actually be having yourself number 1 after game week 1. That one obviously is a bit tongue-in-cheek, but I would love that. Now, in terms of the problems, because there's always problems. Firstly, you're going to have a weaker starting 11. While you might be allocating a second goalkeeper spot, you're going to be having a 4.5 million defender rather than a 4 million, a 5.5 million forward rather than a 4.5. Other managers that aren't going for the bench boost option probably will have a better 11 than you in that opening game week. And then the problem is going to be when we get to game week 2, you are with these players where you've spread your funds a bit more in the team, and then you actually have to bench some of these players. Therefore, your starting 11 is naturally going to have less money allocated to it. So whereas your squad is going to be better for game week 1 because you're bench boosting, mathematically, your team for game week 2 is going to have more money on the bench, therefore most likely worse players in your starting 11. And then you might actually have to start selling off players to afford the ones that you truly want long term. And that then comes up to the second problem where some managers, if you don't plan correctly, might actually get forced into an early wildcard. If you've really focused on game week 1 and maybe those that have a good game week 2, when we get to game week 3, if your team looks pretty rubbish, you might actually have to wildcard if you've taken some punts to really benefit from this bench boost strategy. So I think there are pros, I think there are cons, but I think all in all, being able to use your bench boost in game week 1 with unlimited transfers and then start to plan longer term on the players that you want is the route that I would rather go for than keeping hold of the bench boost and trying to scramble a team together later on in the season. But let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. Now, because preseason is ever evolving, so many things are happening, whether it be transfers or preseason games or injuries. It's really important to stay up on top of these things. So in this section here, I'm just going to quickly cover off some preseason notes that maybe you have missed, which are going to be impacting your FPL teams. And I will try and fly through these very, very quickly. So first and foremost, the most important thing is that this Alexander Isak saga, nobody should have Isak in their FPL teams right now because we have no idea where he's going to end up. It looks like he's completely ruled out a Saudi move, which is great for the Premier League. However, if you are not a Liverpool fan, then it probably isn't good news because it looks like right now a move to Liverpool is going to happen, with Newcastle most likely signing Sesko. So from an FPL perspective, this is quite exciting because we're getting one of the best assets in the game at 10.5, moving to arguably the best team in the league. What is that going to do for Wirtz? What's that going to do for Mo Salah? What is that going to do for Isak as a player? Does that make him better or worse? So right now, I think it's very difficult to have Isak in any of your teams. So I think you need to avoid him right now. But what I am excited about is the knock-on effect. What does that do, meaning if Sesko comes into the league, does that make him a viable option in that Newcastle team? So avoid Isak for now. Next up, if you missed it, Dominic Solanke has picked up a minor ankle injury and has been ruled out for their most recent friendly, and it doesn't look like he will be available for their next one. Now, of course, a player at 7.5 million that a lot of people are including in their FPL drafts, and rightly so, with an opening game at home against Burnley. And I think he is a player that is absolutely on everybody's radar. But while we have this ankle injury news, I don't think we can consider him, especially with this cup final they have 3 days before against PSG. That is the opportunity to monitor it. And if he gets 0 minutes in that game, then I think we can completely rule him out for our game week 1 teams. And then it asks the question, who are the Spurs players that we actually do want, and who's going to play as a forward in that system? Maybe it means we avoid them. Next up, very, very, very rated player Heaven, sorry, I couldn't get my words out there, at 4 million, is somebody that started for Man United and played 66 minutes against West Ham. Now again, this might not actually come to anything, but we do need to monitor these situations because Amorim is in a position right now where he's still trying to find his best team. This is not a side that is completely locked in, especially defensively. De Ligt, Mazraoui, Martinez, Maguire, Heaven are all competing for 3 centre-back positions. And if we do actually see Heaven get another start in a preseason friendly, we might be looking at a 4 million defender in a Man United team that, yes, might be very unpredictable, but we are anticipating to be somewhat better than what we saw last season. Now, next up, just 2 familiar faces that I think are going to continue to deliver fantastic FPL value, and that is going to be Watkins and Rodgers. The question I'm asking myself right now is, are we just overcomplicating FPL? Do we just go back to our bread and butter, which is Watkins and Rodgers? We think about FPL options. We want players that are proven, tick. Players that we know are going to play guaranteed 90 minutes, yes. A good team, yes, Aston Villa. And good fixtures, Aston Villa have those. They both scored in a 2-2 draw against Frankfurt. I think right now, with Villa losing Rashford, Villa losing Asensio, they are going to absolutely build everything around these two. And would I be surprised if we were to see Watkins and Rodgers just be incredible value once again at their price points? Probably not. So we've got to ask ourselves the question, are we overcomplicating it? And should both of these just be a lock in our FPL teams? Next up, with Goalkeepers coming in, official, no FPL price right now, Arteta has confirmed that penalty taking duties are up for grabs. It doesn't look like Saka is just locked in as the penalty taker. And with the money that he spent for Goalkeepers and him being a bit of a penalty merchant, it's worth noting, in the Portuguese league, wouldn't be surprised if he takes that. That would be great for him as a pick and really bad for Bukayo Saka as an option. I think that makes him not good value at 10.5. Last two, Luis Diaz's departure to Bayern confirmed. What does that do for Liverpool? It just makes Liverpool even more difficult to predict who plays off that left-hand side. What does that do for the team? Keep an eye on that one. And finally, Gibbs White's randomly signed a new contract. Great for Nottingham Forest because they've got Brentford in the opening game. And I think that actually really enhances Forest as a team and makes the likes of Gibbs White, Anderson, Chris Wood back on the menu. So keep an eye on these things and let me know if it's impacted your FPL team. So take a look at the goalkeepers that I have for my latest draft, and of course with a bench boost being active and no 4 million goalkeeper actually emerging right now as a standout pick, Kinski at Spurs looks like he might even be moving, which is not ideal. I've currently landed on the combination of Sanchez and Areola. Now, of course, slightly more expensive than I want to spend. Ideally, I would go for 4.5 million goalkeepers, but I'm right now struggling to find the 4.5s. I think Kelleher at Brentford, the more I'm looking at it, thinking, I actually think Brentford are going to struggle right now with the absentees that they will have in their squad, what they have sold. So I'm going to lock in Sanchez, I think, alongside Areola. Now, for game week 1, that's great. I'll put up the fixtures here. We got Palace at home for Chelsea. I think that's tricky, but I think it's fine. And then, of course, we've got Areola away against Sunderland. The thing that I will say is with this bench boost strategy is try and pick one at goalkeeper at least that you know you do want long term. You could probably find a combination in game week 1 that look great, but are either of those actually goalkeepers that you do want to have longer term? So Sanchez and Areola, I think, are perfectly fine for this bench boost. And then after that, yes, in game week 2, they play up against one another. I would pick Sanchez. But then after that, 3, we could play Sanchez at home against Fulham. Game week 4, we probably would play Sanchez against Brentford. And in game week 5, we probably would lean towards Areola at home against Crystal Palace and just pray Graham Potter has things sorted out for the Hammers. So while it's not an incredible rotation between the goalkeepers, I think it's good enough to justify having them in our teams. And I think this is where I'm landing right now. Of course, if I do move away from a bench boost strategy and I just go for, a standard team, then I probably will be more inclined to just stick with Sanchez and then drop Areola down to a 4 million, which would then give me 0.5 million more to spend. And this is what I'm discussing about the pros and cons. That's a perfect example. If I go without the bench boost strategy, I'm freeing up 0.5 million in my goalkeeper alone to then invest in my starting 11. And these are the things that we do need to trade off if we are going for this bench boost strategy. But I quite like these two right now. So moving into my defenders here, and I've slightly changed how I've structured it. Previously, I had 2 6 million defenders, and I still think I could potentially land on that. But right now, I'm just going for 1 premium defender, and that's changed to Virgil van Dijk. Now, the reason why I'm going here right now, slightly of a personal opinion of what's going to happen with this Liverpool team, and of course a consideration of the defensive contributions. Now, a lot of people are going for Frimpong. Personally, I think Connor Bradley is still going to get minutes in this Liverpool team, and I just want somebody who is guaranteed 90 minutes, who also is going to benefit from the introduction of the defensive contributions. Virgil van Dijk is a bit of a beast in that area in terms of clearances, tackles, so I do think Van Dijk is the safe pick, but I also think the best pick long term. If we're looking at maybe a short term punt, yes, I think Kirkhead and Frimpong probably do have the higher ceiling, but I don't want to take any risks right now in these opening weeks. I think at the same price, I rather would just go for probably the boring pick and go for Virgil van Dijk. Next, I've got Nico Williams. Now, with Forest actually retaining some players, Gibbs White actually sticking around, I actually think the fixtures are not too bad at all for Forest. Brentford in the opening game week, who look like they are going to lose potentially Visser, have lost already in Buemo, Norgard is gone. I actually think that's a really good opening game week fixture for them, especially offensively and defensively. Now, I do like Murillo and Milenkovic, but I'm going to save 0.5 million and go for Nico Williams because he is actually good on the defensive contributions, but also he offers attacking potential. So he's my choice in that Forest defence. Next, we've got 2 4.5 millions. We've got Udogie and Wan-Bissaka. Now, at the time of recording, Udogie does have a slight injury, so I need to monitor that one again. If that is an occasion where he might actually be a risk for game week 1, then I probably would actually pivot away from the Spurs defence because I don't feel inclined to spend 5.5 million on someone like a Pedro Porro until I see him actually doing all of the good stuff in that Spurs side. But right now, with the fixtures that Spurs have, I think Udogie is a decent investment, especially if we do see what we've seen in pre-season, a slight tweak from Thomas Frank, where at times they go to a back 3 and the left back progresses forward, and then at times we've seen it with the right back. I quite like the possibility of Udogie almost being a left winger at times. Wan-Bissaka in for that Sunderland away game in game week 1, but also a nice enabler. And what I saw last season was actually a more developed player in the final third. And I think we could just see a better version of Wan-Bissaka once again under Graham Potter. So I'm quite excited about that pick. And then we've gone for Esteve at Burnley. Look, he is in there for the away game against Spurs, which is not ideal from a bench boost perspective. But game week 2 with a game at home against Sunderland, Burnley are absolutely going to have to win that game to kind of set the platform for them in the opening stages of this season. So I'm looking at him as more of a 2-game week pick rather than just game week 1 in isolation. So that's how the defence is looking right now. Yes, I haven't got any Arsenal, but I think there are some mixed fixtures there for them. No Chelsea defender, but of course I've got the Sanchez cover, and I'm pretty happy with this lineup right now. Next up, moving into my midfielders, and the two that have stuck around are going to be Mo Salah and Cole Palmer. Now look, with everything happening at Liverpool right now, Luis Diaz going, Isak potentially coming in, Ekitike obviously signed, we know Mo Salah is going to play every game. That is just the case. They still haven't signed anybody who actually can replace him on that right-hand side. So I have no concerns about Mo Salah. It's more the case of, can I actually find better value in that Liverpool team? Now, as of right now, the answer is no. I think Florian Wirtz is incredible, and I think he will be a phenomenal player. But I think his introduction into this Liverpool team actually just also improves Mo Salah. So I don't think Wirtz can cover Mo Salah, but maybe Isak coming into the league actually can. So Mo Salah is in right now, but I have to say, compared to what I was a week ago where I was 100% I'm having Mo Salah, I do think if Isak joins Liverpool, there is a door that will be opened where we might actually be able to go against Mo Salah and have maybe 2 Liverpool picks in Isak and Wirtz and avoid him. But as of right now, based on what we're hearing, he is going to be in my team. And also Cole Palmer. Now, I just think he's one of those players with the opening fixtures that they have where it's very difficult to ignore him. I think it's a dangerous price point to ignore as well, because if you go for Mo Salah and then you go to 8.5 million like a Marmoush and you leave out the 10.5 million bracket, you're avoiding Saka and you're avoiding Cole Palmer. Now, what I like about Cole Palmer is if he doesn't hit the ground running, maybe Chelsea are underwhelming, we can pivot from Cole Palmer to Saka, or we can downgrade him to a Bruno Fernandes. I would rather have Palmer, knowing that I can move down from him, than scrambling one of my other players, freeing up 1.5 million to invest into him. That's my current thought process, and I'm also quite bullish on Chelsea as well. Next up, we've got Marmoush. Now, this easily could be Wirtz because I don't have a third Liverpool player, but as I've discussed, I don't really know what's going on with Liverpool right now. And I think Marmoush is actually incredible value at 8.5. Now, again, we need to see what Pep's doing. Is he going to have an out-and-out winger like Doku on the left-hand side? And then he's going to play a bit more of an inside forward on the right in Foden? If that's the case, then where does Marmoush play? Because is he going to be the creator like a De Bruyne? Because if he is started each and every week, he could be on free kicks and corners, which is incredible. But actually need to see it first and foremost. But right now he is in as a bit of a price holder in the team, but that could easily be Wirtz, or it could be someone like a Bruno Fernandes with 0.5 million still in the bank with this team. Regardless, I have to keep that 8.5 million slot in this team. I think it's really, really important. Next up, we got Kudus at 6.5, but again, with 0.5 million in the bank, I could easily upgrade that to someone like Morgan Rogers, who I discussed, I think will be overlooked because he's a bit of a boring pick. And someone like Kudus at home against Burnley is really exciting for that opening game week. But again, could I see him playing 60 and coming off of Brennan Johnson? 100%. So I like him in the team right now from more a fixture perspective, not necessarily a long-term thing. And right now I've got Anderson at 5.5 million. I think Gibbs White's staying. While that slightly diminishes Anderson because we were getting excited that he's basically going to be the new Gibbs White, I still think Gibbs White staying at Forest improves Anderson and Forest in general. And I think with that opening fixture against Brentford, Anderson might just elevate his game once again. And he's also decent in terms of the all-round nature of his game. So I think Anderson at 5.5 million is the one that excites me a bit more based on the fixtures as opposed to someone like a Caicedo. And finally, the forwards in my Game Week 1 team. And we've had a few tweaks here. Now, Beto remains at 5.5 million. However, I do believe this is the perfect example of a bench boost player who could very quickly become a problematic player. Now, remember, Everton have signed a guy called Barry. I know nothing about him. However, I think he will get minutes. And with that being said, yes, Beto might play alongside Barry, but we could see a very similar situation to Fulham where we have one plays 60, one plays 30. The following game week, the other plays 60, the other plays 30. Now, I've brought Beto in because obviously the first game against Leeds, I expect him to play. And then if we can get game week 2 out of him, great. But the way that I've built this team right now, it actually doesn't matter if Beto loses his place because I can actually bench him with the combinations that we have in this team. The problem is, I don't want a 5.5 million forward that could be at risk. I might as well just have a 4.5 million forward. But because we're bench boosting and it's very difficult to afford any more than 5.5 million, it's difficult to have anyone other than Beto in this team. So he's in right now. Hopefully we see some good things in pre-season that justify him as the number one forward. Because if that is the case, then I think he's incredible value at 5.5. But again, this is a player that very easily could change. Next up is going to be João Pedro. Again, I expect him to start for Chelsea. I think the fixtures are good in the opening few game weeks. And again, I'm quite bullish on Chelsea. The problem is I need to just remember that João Pedro has been in the Premier League for a long time now. And he's never hit the incredible heights of a goal scorer. Maybe being in this Chelsea team with better players around him, he will just elevate his game to be a better player. But I also need to remember that he is taking up an important part in this squad. That could easily be Dominic Solanke if he's past fit, or I spend a bit more and go up to another forward like a Jarrod Bowen with that opening fixture against Sunderland, which maybe I am just massively overlooking right now from an attacking perspective. And finally, we've got Chris Wood. He is back in the team, the guy that I ignored all of last season. I think I'm overlooking him once again. When we're looking at forwards, we want guaranteed minutes, we want penalty takers, and we want a good team with good fixtures. And I think Forest tick all of those boxes. I just wouldn't be surprised in the opening few weeks if Chris Wood continues what we saw last year. Few shots, scores a goal, picks up 9 points, walks away as one of the highest scoring forwards. We're not getting the glitz and glamour. We're not getting a guy that is going to get a hat-trick or so. But with Gibbs White staying, I think that is such an intent thing from Nottingham Forest as a team, and I do think that just massively improves Chris Wood as a player, and he's made it into my team. And now I'm looking at him in my team with Brentford at home, who are having all their problems right now. I can't see him leaving my team. I think there's more chance of João Pedro leaving my team than that of Chris Wood. So that is how my team is looking right now. 0.5 million in the bank, and as I discussed, very easily could be Kudus up to Morgan Rogers and get myself him in a bit long term. That could see me change João Pedro to Jarrod Bowen and get myself him, which I think is very tempting the more I talk about it. Otherwise, maybe an investment in the defence if I feel like there's a better 5 million option, or I can improve Neco Williams to a 5.5. All in all, though, I look at this squad and I think it's good enough to justify a bench boost, and that is why I am still very much locked in on this strategy. Let me know what yours is in the comment section. Yes, guys, okay, so that's going to wrap up today's video looking at my latest Game Week 1 draft. As I said, things are changing and things will inevitably change in the lead up to that deadline in a few weeks' time. So as always, if you enjoyed today's video, make sure to drop a like, always massively appreciated. And of course, if you want to stay up to date with the changes to my team, make sure you do hit that subscribe button. It is always massively appreciated and great to see some new faces in the comment section. If you have any questions or you have any sort of general stuff, drop them in the comment section. I'll be sure to get to them. Have an amazing day. Take care, and I'll see you in tomorrow's video. Cheers.